Hey, do I just go?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you've talked a little bit about American competitiveness tonight, and I'm getting a sense that you're also not a huge fan of college. Is that correct?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, somewhat. And you are also not a fan of immigration. So given those two stances, you are proposing cutting off a substantial part of America's labor supply, both in skilled and unskilled sectors. And you're not encouraging young people, or rather you are actively discouraging young people from gaining the necessary skills to replace the skilled immigrants that are coming in. So given that you hold these two stances, how is America going to become more competitive when you, especially in fields that require highly skilled labor, such as medical research and material science and engineering?
Well, of course I want people to get skills, so that's not a correct representation. Does college provide skills to the majority of people that go? Does a woman's study degree give you any skills that was going to help us fight China?
Well, you're taking, and I know why you're doing
this. That's a majority of degrees, and people that go to college are in the social sciences, are in communications, and they're in irrelevant degrees, a majority. So a majority of the 21 million people that are in college right now are there studying stuff that you and I would laugh at.
Oh, I wouldn't laugh at that at all. I think that people go to college for a variety of reasons.
No, I know that. But do you think that when we're looking at American competitiveness, studying North African lesbian poetry is going to make us more competitive?
Well, I don't think that a person's decision to pursue an education should be determined by what is necessarily for the greater good of the country.
That's a separate issue. I'm not even contending that. Everyone has a right to do that. You can make whatever path you want. I'm making a broader macro point of competitiveness, that when you have millions of your best people studying stuff that's complete trash and complete nonsense, to just go become mid-level manager, paper pusher bureaucrats, not good.
At the end of the day, most of these white-collar corporate jobs are just totally made up, okay? And the only reason they even survive or can't exist in the first place is because they're often just kind of bloat, existing within large corporations that, kind of afford that in a way that a small business couldn't. The laptop class, if you will.
You have to ask the question.
Well, you haven't answered my question yet, because you're going on and you're talking about, okay, some degrees are not going to make America.
Not some.
Okay,
a majority.
I'll grant you that. So you're saying a majority of degrees that are granted in the United States are not going to make America competitive in STEM fields. Okay, fine. I asked, given that you are anti-immigration and that you are disparaging going to college in general.
I'm anti-illegal immigration, just to make sure. I'm anti-foreigners breaking into our country. So I have to clarify you on my position, but go ahead.
So the Trump administration's deportation of academics, that's bad, you would say?
Well, again, it depends on what they're being deported for and what they're teaching and the criteria around that.
So the cancer researcher at, what was it? Harvard? Some Boston university that was deported for forgetting to declare frog embryos in her carry-on. That was a dangerous person that needed to be deported. Would you agree with that?
I don't know enough about the frog embryo thief.
Oh, okay. Thief? Oh, no. These were samples
smuggler.
Related to her research.
Frog embryo smuggler. Let's talk more broadly, though.
Why is somebody carrying frog embryos in their luggage? I like how that question wasn't even broached. Okay.
If we are thinking about going up against China, do we want more universities that are of the liberal arts direction, or more that are doing really like artificial intelligence preparedness, astrophysics, engineering, of which of course I totally support, but that's less than 12% of all students that go to college study those things.
So you're asking, what's
going to make us more competitive? The current college model, or one that is significantly changed and somewhat reconfigured?
Well, your premise is that we're competing against China.
I would say we're an enemy with the Chinese Communist Party, not just a trading partner, that they're an enemy of the United States. But I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. Back to immigration. I'm against illegal immigration. I want the best people to be here, merit-based, but I don't believe immigration is a charity. You should not come here just because you want to, and we're not going to open our doors as just an act of benevolency. We want the best people that are going to assimilate and make our country more competitive.
So you don't think we should open our doors to anyone with, say, a PhD or a highly skilled?
No, it depends. Now, if you have a PhD and you've written extensively on how the atom was split, and you're from Japan, then yeah, we'll entertain you coming to this country, and we want that, of course. But again, you have to have some nuance into who you're going to let into our country, not just your blanket statement, let anybody with a PhD come into America. That's silly.
I think it's important to remember that this is the case with H-1B immigrants, all right? They are people who are often let into this country without, frankly, a good reason at all.
Yeah, so I have to totally agree with Charlie there. The young man kept trying to paint him as being against migrants, as all the lefts do, because they either do or don't know the difference between illegal migrants or migrants, right? Regardless that they just think, oh, well, everybody's migrants, or there's a difference. Colonists and migrants are two different people, you know. Colonists are basically people who or without a homeland and they're building a new homeland. Migrants are people who migrated from to an already established homeland. You know, like when the colonists came to Americas, the Americas were not established. Yeah, you had Indians, but you had all kind of different tribes and Indians. Second point about colonists and migrants and the illegal migrants, the left don't want to establish the fact that it's the illegals that they really want, because they can control, manipulate, get them in here with work visas, social security numbers, get them voting, get them in the block, you know. And you had 20 million in 4 years, 20 million in 4 more years, 20 million in 4 more years. Next thing you know, you have a country the size of America ran like Haiti. You know, that's truly the consequences. And this is a way that they're being held accountable, losing elections and going against all this crap. So Charlie's totally right. Look, if this is your first time to the video, you are on the grind with Political Decode. I'm your host, Johnny Caruso. Go ahead and subscribe now to the channel. Let's get back into the video.
They're here to contribute. They're providing skills that Americans don't have, because Americans are apparently just a bunch of dummies who are incapable of being taught or learning these skills. So we need the H-1Bs to come in. There's just one problem with that. It's a lie, all right? It's hogwash. It's not true. It is very obviously a way for big tech and big corporations to import cheaper foreign labor so they can get away with paying them less, you know, often tying them to a job and treating them however they want, because they'll work overtime and all that for free because they're afraid they're going to get deported unless they sit there and obey like a good little wage slave. That's what it's for, okay? And there are a lot of examples of this. People argue and say, no, it's just our most highest skilled. Look into it. Talk to people who are actually in the industry. There are Americans who have had to actually train their replacements and been told by the corporation, if you don't train your replacement, we're not giving you severance pay. Really evil stuff. And it's actually even resulted in some Americans deleting themselves. You can guess what that means. Because they were getting replaced and lost their whole careers. It's disgusting and it's criminal, and it should be stopped.
I don't think that humanities have any value at all. So history.
Well, I do actually. The way that it's taught and configured. So are you here at University of Wyoming?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Are you in the humanities, or what are you?
Oh, it depends on who you ask. I'm studying to be a doctor of economics.
Oh, great. Good. Yeah. So you guys have spent a lot of time studying Thomas Sowell.
Yes.
And Milton Friedman.
Yes.
And F.A. Hayek and Ludwig von Mises.
Yes.
All of that.
My work is actually quite closely related to Friedrich Hayek.
Great. So do you think most college kids across the country are learning Hayek?
Actually, yes. I was introduced to Hayek and Bastiat.
That's a joke, and you know it. Like,
oh, really?
You're the first economics student in the country I've ever known that even knows who Hayek is.
Well, I think that's because a lot of people enter economics thinking that it's just another business degree, that it's just about how to run a firm.
It's a rigorous study to obviously go after the
Kirk is not joking. Throwback time.
This kind of holistic view you get. For example, what are you studying? Can I ask?
Economics.
Okay, so what do you think of Thomas Sowell?
This
It's how to get in shape fast.
If you want to drop this, start eating more of these. You might think this would take years to learn, but I'm going to teach.
I actually really like him. I bought his book, Basic Economics.
Great.
He's one of the first economists I
Do they
really
teach
looked
it
at.
here?
Not yet, but also I've only been
Okay,
for like
so now
1
you're proving
year.
my point. If you're studying economics and they're not teaching Thomas Sowell, you're not getting an education, you're getting an indoctrination.
Well,
and you're
no.
being scammed.
Okay.
Milton Friedman, do they teach Milton Friedman here?
No, but I'm aware of him.
Okay, Ludwig von Mises.
I'm aware of him, but no.
Murray Rothbard, hold on.
No.
F.A. Hayek.
No.
Frederick Bastiat.
No.
You're not getting economics education, you're getting an indoctrination. Humanities as they're configured are wretched to the core with anti-Western teaching, anti-American literature,
Anti-Western teaching.
an emphasis on Herbert Marcuse and Angela Davis and Kimberly
Oh,
Crenshaw
what's
and
wrong with
Judith
Angela
Butler
Davis?
and Derek Bell.
What's wrong with Angela Davis? She's a great woman.
What, Angela Davis, the
Yeah.
outspoken vocal communist?
Yeah.
She's a great woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah,
This guy studies economics, by the way, and he likes communists? Really?
that's why kids shouldn't go to college to learn from communists. That proves my point. Angela Davis has nothing to offer to the academy. She is the disciple of Herbert Marcuse.
I don't think a diverse education in political theory is useful.
You can learn about those perspectives, but studying them as your primary perspective, do you think do you,
Who's studying Angela Davis as their primary perspective? That's a leap. That is a leap.
No, it's, hold on. Angela Davis is, or the postmodern school of thought, brought to you by Marcuse and the Frankfurt School and Jacques Derrida, is the predominant philosophical worldview that is put forward in the humanities across the country. That is a fact.
We've strayed pretty far from my original point. We've got people behind
No,
me.
I mean-
So, well, hold on. I'm just going to give you an opportunity to clearly answer the questions that I had, given that you are anti-immigration.
Anti-illegal immigration.
Okay, fine. Anti-illegal immigration.
Yes.
That's fine. I'll
I
grant
want
you
more
that.
Elon Musk and less Elon Omars. Does that make sense?
Well, that's bait, but okay.
So that's the type of legal immigration I want. More Elons, less Elons.
Okay. We're going to ignore that bait.
No, but
so
that's
you
my
have,
answer. I mean,
you have
merit over
earlier
Muslim
you
totalitarianism.
just said you are against some highly educated, highly skilled immigrants that come in based on your personal criteria, fine, and you are against training our young people to fill their shoes. How does this make America more competitive? And
Okay,
you've spent a
well-
lot of time talking about immigration and the fact that
again-
some college degrees are worthless, but you have not at all addressed how
Okay,
your viewpoints make America
apprenticeships,
more competitive.
Apprenticeships, trade schools, community colleges. There's other options than four-year colleges to be able to get skills, of which I highly support. Did you know there are 11 million job openings in this country right now that do not require a college degree, that just require some form of technical training? So yes, we need less people going to college and more people that are going to enter the muscular class of this country.
Community college.
It's important we don't get too carried away with this whole, no college, anti-college thing. Okay? I mostly agree. Don't get me wrong, but we got to consider this.
Yeah, so one thing, I don't really agree with Charlie's premises that colleges is total BS. It's just like life. It is what you make it. And I think they need them bullshit degrees, right? But they need the Charlies in the world to wake people up and say, hey, look, just because you went to college and you got 2 degrees and you come out with your master's, don't make you educated if the degrees you have are worthless and you can't acquire a real income, right? Or you're dependent on a government job that's a low-paying job, right? So it's not that no one's better than no one, but if we're gonna encourage people to work ahead, a lot of this stuff needs to be learned. Before I became a Republican, I was on the other side of the coin. I was a Democrat, so I know everything they do, but actually, you don't know what they do when you're on that team, right? Because you're not the head of that team. You're just kind of a worker and a link in the chain. You're never the head of the team that you're rooting for. You're just a link in the chain. You can never know what the top people are doing unless you move to the other side. Then you can have a 2,000-foot view of what's really happening. So there you have it. I don't totally agree with everything what Charlie's saying, but I agree with most of what he's saying. Instead of getting indoctrinated, half of these people will be better served going into the fields of trade schools. You can become a plumber, electrician, you know, an apprentice plumber, a journeyman plumber, electrician in like 2 years. Work for yourself in 3 or 4 years, and you can make $250,000. You really can in the right, you know, every big city, all their governments, they all subcontract out too. Plumbers, electrician, because in the government, they damn sure don't have the skilled trade to do those jobs. They can't do it. They don't have no one in government jobs who can do do them right and efficiently. So anytime there's a big electrical contract for a building or a plumbing contract for a building, they're hiring in the private sector, you know. So in those between 200,000 to 400,000 a year, easily, when you have your own business doing that. The kind of money that college will never make you, you know. I think college, like if you're looking at college from a financial gain, you need to be thinking of, you know, business, doctor, lawyer, that type of thing. But if you're just going to get the experience, go get the experience. But what does that mean? You got to come live with mommy and daddy when you come get out of college and have your little experience and you got to start all over again? No, like, well, what they don't tell you is when mommy and daddy's putting you out the house, well, that's what it is. They're not just sending you off to college. They're putting you out the house. But the good way of doing it is saying, oh, we send Jane and Billy out to college. No, they put you out the house. Meaning, go be successful and don't come back. I mean, come back, holidays, say hello to mom and dad, but please don't come back here where we got to feed you and all this shit and bathe you and put you in a room and board. Go, you know, go make some money. Get into the real world. That's really what it's about. Yo, it's been real. My name is Johnny Caruso. I was your host. You are tuned in to On the Grind with Political Decode. Please subscribe to my channel. Let's keep this thing going. Love, peace, happiness, always.